the body. It promotes our endothelium. These are protective cells that line our blood vessels and our lymph vessels that protect us from disease such as heart disease, cancer, a cold virus. We can increase and boost our immune system. We look at these cells like our immune system. They're related in our body. So if we can eat foods that promote these cells, we can make ourselves basically superheroes where we are not going to get disease. We're not going to be ill. We're not going to have to eliminate obesity. It's going to be eliminated by eating this way, by removing the saturated fats, the animal products, and the sugars and the nuts out of our diet. So what I'm doing today is, sorry guys. Okay. What we're doing today is oil-free mushroom gravy. Is anyone familiar with cooking oil-free and why we cook oil-free? One person, couple people? Okay, we're eliminating oils out of the diet. We're losing some people because of this sound. Should I just keep going? Okay. We're eliminating oils out of the diet because oils contain saturated fat. And saturated fat breaks down the endothelium, those protective cells that I was speaking about. And if you look at a bottle of olive oil, the only thing in there is monounsaturated fat and saturated fat. There's no nutrients in olive oil. The nutrients are left in the shell of the olive. When we press the oil, all we're getting in that olive oil bottle is saturated fat and unsaturated fat. So it's nutrient depleted. We're just pouring fat onto our food, and fat is stored as fat in the body. It's easily converted. It's already in the form it needs to be to store as fat on our body. Where I'm promoting a diet of high carbohydrates. Those are not easily stored as fat. They're burned in order to regulate our body's temperature. So if we're eating a high carb diet, it's not going to be stored as fat. There's been a lot of nutritional misconception out there about potatoes or pasta or rice. You can eat it in abundance and you're not going to store it as fat. I personally was obese. I had heart disease. That's how I got into teaching this. I reversed my own obesity, gout. I had all kinds of disorders that were all related back to food. When I changed what I was eating and eliminated the animal products and the saturated fat and the sugars, my body fat just fell off. My weight regulated. I stopped having to spend hours in the gym maintaining a much heavier weight than I am today. I no longer exercise to maintain my body weight. I exercise for pleasure on occasion. I'd much rather spend my time cooking in the kitchen, these oil-free recipes, and eating than torturing myself in the gym. And that's what I teach, and I kind of pay it forward after my experience being told by my doctors that my illnesses, my high cholesterol, my obesity, it ran in my family. This is your ticket. You were born in this family. This is what you get. I didn't believe it. So I investigated further and went back to school and studied plant-based nutrition. And my mom finally jumped on board. She's here today visiting from Florida. It's her 1-year anniversary. And she reversed her high cholesterol by following the plan I taught her and lost 54 pounds. So, and reversed, she can't hear me. She's saying, I can't even hear you, but they're clapping for you, Mom. You gotta read my lips. So I'm gonna start up with this mushroom gravy. Get this burner on high. So hopefully, can you guys see in the mirror? Okay, great, thank you. So we're gonna start with a totally dry pan. No oil, no liquid at all. And we're gonna heat it up. You can start with a cold pan and heat it up as you go. It's not like cooking with olive oil where you have to heat up the pan first. And we're just gonna add the onions and the mushrooms, and we're gonna just let this get nice and hot. It's not the oil that has the flavor, it's the browning of the vegetables in the pan. I'm missing a spoon. I'll just use this. So just put this on high and let it go. Be patient, because when you're browning mushrooms, they're going to give off a lot of water, and that water has to evaporate before it starts to brown. And I have this pan on high. Does anyone have any questions about eating an oil-free plant-based diet so far, or nut-free or sugar-free? Wow, usually I'm bombarded with questions. Why no oil? Why no sugar? Why no nuts? I may have to come up. The question was, why no nuts? Well, nuts contain saturated fat, and we're eliminating the saturated fat out of the diet because it breaks down those endothelial cells. Those are our most important cells in our body, and we want to promote them to protect us from disease. The things that break down those cells would be nuts because of the saturated fat, animal products because of the saturated fat, sugar, artificial sweeteners, or chemical food additives. So, let me just check on this. Give it a little stir. So when I'm choosing shelved products, I want to look for always whole food ingredients and no food additives. So we want to eliminate things like natural flavor. That's a chemical enhancement in your food. It's not a natural ingredient. So when you're looking for vegetable broth, I want you to look for a vegetable broth that doesn't contain any fat, any oil, any sugar, or any natural flavor. This vegetable broth comes from Trader Joe's. This is a great one. This one's my favorite one. There's also Pacific vegetable broth, which you can find at Whole Foods and most grocery stores. That's free of any chemical food additives, oils, or sugars. When you're looking for spices in the grocery store, you want to look for spices that don't contain added ingredients like spices. There will be a word that says spices. Well, it says this is oregano, and then afterward it says spices. What is that? It's a chemical food additive that enhances the flavor and will cause food cravings. So by eliminating fats of nuts, sugars, and oils, you can see it's starting to brown now. By eliminating those things, you're going to end your food cravings, because we're naturally attracted to foods that are high in fat and sugar. It's just in our nature to be drawn to caloric foods for survival. But we're living in a world where we drive everywhere, we take the train or the bus. We don't need these dense calories, these over-processed calories. So by eliminating the nuts, we're going to eliminate cravings for high-fat foods, and we're going to promote our endothelium by removing that saturated fat component. I eat this diet full-time every day, and if I added a handful of nuts to my diet, it would be the worst component of my diet because of the saturated fat. If you added a handful of nuts to someone's diet that regularly ate potato chips in the afternoon, and they replaced the potato chips for nuts, then it would be beneficial to the diet. That's how the nut industry gets away with saying they're a heart-healthy thing to add to your diet. But if you're already eating a super-powered diet that's all clean and whole foods, nuts would be the worst component along with oils and sugar. Or agave nectar. That's a camouflage sugar. It works the same way in the body as sugar. It's high, very, very high in calorie. It's concentrated calories, and it will cause sugar cravings. So you can see in the pan. Can everyone see the nice brown color we're getting in the pan? And the mushrooms are getting a nice golden color, and you want this to happen. And right before it gets to the burning point, you're going to add your broth. And what this is going to do is deglaze the pan. I'm sure you've heard that term if you watch the Food Network. They're always adding butter or some kind of fat to get the brown bits from the bottom of the pan. All you need is vegetables. vegetable broth. And it's going to get all that flavor into your gravy. My mom, she was the queen of making gravy on the holidays. It was always, unfortunately, turkey or a roast. And I sat on the stool and I watched and learned how to make gravy. And I'm really good at making gravy now, but I make it all with vegetable broth, as does my mom now. But I think this gravy's even better than the gravy we grew up with. It's definitely better for us, but it has all the flavor. So to add more flavor to this, to give it, you have a question? Okay, Jerry, will you ask the question, or get the question? She wanted to know, if you're eliminating nuts, how are you getting the protein needed in a vegan diet? Nuts are not that high in protein. If you break it down calorie to protein calorie to fat calorie, they're not very high in protein. Beans and all whole foods contain protein. If you take a kernel of corn, there's going to be just the right amount of protein in a kernel of corn, just the right amount of protein in a leaf of spinach that we need for cell renewal and cell repair. If we add too much protein in our diet, it can promote growth, it can promote aging, it will speed up the whole growth process in our body. And we've learned that with animal products, animal protein consumption, it can promote growth in cancer cells really rapidly. That's why we're not doing that anymore. We're not eating animal proteins. But the fat to protein ratio in nuts, it's much higher in fat than protein. There's much better sources of protein, like all your whole foods, all your vegetables, your beans. It works out to about 8 to 10% protein in all your fruits and vegetables if you eat a whole food diet with no added extracted oils. You'll hit that marker every time at every meal, as long as you're eating a whole food, like a whole potato. The potato has been, people think it's bad for us. It's so good for us. It has more fiber than oatmeal. It's heart healthy. It's going to lower your cholesterol because of the fiber content. It has about 5 to 6 grams of protein per potato per 130 to 150 calories. A lot of vitamin C, potassium, more than a banana. So you're getting it when you're eating whole foods. So what I'm going to do here, now that our gravy's come to a boil, I'm going to show you how to thicken it. Traditionally, people would make like a roux with oil and flour and or butter, and that would thicken it. What we're going to use is cornstarch. I have organic cornstarch. You can buy regular cornstarch, whatever you prefer. And I have a cup of room temperature water, and I'm going to add 3 to 4 tablespoons of cornstarch to this water. And this is what's going to thicken up the gravy, and it's going to give it a really nice shine. 4 tablespoons, 3 to 4. It doesn't have to be exact, it's going to work. So what I'm doing is just mixing it in this glass of water. You could use more broth if you wanted, so that we don't have any lumps in our gravy. So now it's like a slurry of cornstarch and water. And we're going to whisk this right into our boiling gravy. And you're going to see it's going to thicken up quite quickly. Now, if your water was cold, give it a chance. You got to let this come back to a boil for the thickening to happen. But you can see it's already thickening up. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit after it comes back up to a boil. And you want to cook this for at least a minute to take away that cornstarch flavor. Then what I'm going to do after this cooks for a minute, I'm going to add, I forgot to add the poultry seasoning that I talked about. This is what's going to give it that roast flavor. I use this in a lot of my recipes that want that meat flavor, but that it's not meat in the poultry seasoning. All that's in here is sage and thyme. But that's what's traditionally used in roasts and chickens and turkeys when we're roasting them. So it duplicates that rich gravy flavor. And now I'm turning the heat off, and I'm gonna add 1 cup of soy milk. Now this is the brand of soy milk I would recommend when you're buying soy milk or any plant-based milks. You wanna look at the ingredients, and all it should contain is organic soybeans and water. No carrageenan, no food additives, no sugar, no salt, cane sugar. I see all these chemicals that I can't even read in a plant-based milk. It's not necessary. This is Trader Joe's brand. It's unsweetened plain soy milk. I highly recommend this one. It's the best price out there for the product. And also there's West Soy plain unsweetened soy milk. That one I recommend as well. It's a little more money, same product. So I'm gonna finish the gravy off with 1 cup of this milk. One of the other reasons for not using any food additives is sometimes when you put a soy milk or an almond milk into a hot dish, it will curdle and separate. That's because they're putting thickeners and the carrageenan to thicken it up in there. This won't happen because all that's in there is soybeans and water. It's a whole food because it's the whole soybean with water. A lot of people look at soy milk and they think it's a processed milk. It's not. It's just cooked and blended with water. So this is going to give it more of a milk gravy base. The other ingredient I want to add is 5 tablespoons of tamari. This is going to darken it up, and it's going to give it the salty flavor of gravy. And this is an organic soy sauce. 5 tablespoons. I think. Were you counting? 4? No, 5 tablespoons of tamari. 1 cup. I can't hear you guys that well. It sounds like they're playing basketball over there, but I think the nets are closed up. What is that? I don't know. I think I need 1 more tablespoon just by the color of it. And taste your gravy as you're making. See what it needs. Maybe you don't want it as salty as I like it. Try it after 3 tablespoons. See what it tastes like for you. And then I always try to add a fresh ingredient to everything I make. Oh, let's put some black pepper if you like pepper. I always try to add something fresh, and usually in all of my recipes I have a fresh herb ingredient. Parsley, it's so inexpensive, it's so nutrient dense, and you can keep this fresh for 2 weeks in your refrigerator. If you wash it, put it in a big bowl of water, the whole bunch of parsley, rinse it really good, shake it dry, wrap it in a clean kitchen towel or a paper towel, put it in a plastic bag or a Tupperware or a glass container in your refrigerator. Change the towel out weekly and it'll stay inevitably as long as you keep changing that towel. So I always have fresh parsley. It'll dress up anything you make. Even my mashed potatoes, I always add fresh parsley to it. Kids will eat it. They won't even notice it's there. Just chop it up really fine. Did you have a question? Did you have a question earlier? No? Okay. Any questions? Yes. She was asking, the question was, do I like Bragg's liquid aminos? Yes, you can go ahead and switch that out for the tamari. It's going to give it a salty flavor. It's a soy amino, a soy protein. It's along the same lines as soy sauce or a tamari. I prefer the taste of tamari over Bragg's. It's not necessary to have Bragg's in our diet. We get all the amino acids and proteins that we need in a whole foods diet. I used 1 pound of mushrooms, 16 ounces. 2 small packages or the big 1 pound of mushrooms. You could double it. If you want a lot of mushrooms in your gravy, use a lot. If you don't like mushrooms, make this gravy without mushrooms. Just add more onions. Yeah, 1 large onion. Pardon me? This one was a sweet Vidalia onion, but you could use a red onion. You could use green onions. This gravy, it's just a basic idea of recipe. You can, if you're a creative chef, go for it. So you want to chop this up nice and fine. And just whisk that in. And you can see this just gives it more of a gourmet look. It's going to be a little more impressive if you're serving this for a dinner party. I highly recommend trying this gravy with the mashed potatoes. But there's also, since Thanksgiving's coming up, I have a recipe for stuff yourself stuffing that's out of this world. It's better than any traditional stuffing I've ever had. Of course, I made the recipe and I'm bragging about it, but it's from feedback that I'm getting from people. So I don't have a ladle, but I'm just going to show you how I would serve it up. I always make a well in my mashed potatoes so I can have more gravy, because this gravy is totally fat-free, so you could eat as much as you want. You can't exceed your caloric needs, your daily caloric needs, eating this way when you eliminate the fats. I eat a lot of food, and on protectivediet.com you can see I have a 30-day photo food journal. You can see what I eat for 30 days. Just to give you an example of the quantity, this is about volume eating. When you eliminate the fats out of your diet, you can eat carbs. I would probably eat twice this amount for my dinner serving with a salad, or I don't know what else I would have with it. A lot of greens and stuff like that. I eat a lot of greens, but just to give you an idea. And there should be samples coming out soon. Can you ask them? Awesome. Rice? Like if you wanted to serve the gravy over rice, that's very common. A lot of people do that. Always brown rice. And always buy your rice organic. And short grain, long grain, whatever you like. I prefer short grain just because I like the texture of it, but whatever one you like. Did anyone else have any questions? Sorry, I can't go over there. Okay. The question she had was, what about cooking sprays? There's 0 fat. Well, technically they are oil in a can, and when they label the fat grams of the cooking spray, it's a spray like that. It literally goes into the air and it doesn't measure as fat. But when we use cooking spray on a pan, we go like this. And there's fat in your dish. There is saturated fat in your dish that breaks down those endothelial cells, those protective cells. You don't need the cooking spray. I just showed you. You don't need it. It's a waste of money. Actually, eating this way it will cut your grocery bill in half, because your high ticket items in the grocery store are olive oil, peanut butter, almonds. What else are we buying? All the packaged food, processed food, potato chips. Those are expensive. My husband Jerry and I, we eat, the 2 of us, we cook mostly all our own meals, and our grocery bill is approximately $70 a week, and that's for all our meals. And we eat primarily organic, and it's super cheap to eat this way. The students that I have go through my workshop, usually by the end of their 3rd week, after they've bought some higher ticket items, maybe their tamari or nutritional yeast, or invested in a case of soy milk or vegetable broth, their 3rd week, they're like, I have all this leftover money. I don't know, I can't believe that this is cheaper to eat this way, but it's because they were buying all these processed packaged foods. You're not paying for advertisement for these products. For potatoes, there's no ads for potatoes on TV, but there's ads for processed packaged foods on TV, and you're paying for that package, you're paying for that chia seed pudding. I use that to thicken up the soy milk with cacao powder. And we sweeten with liquid stevia. That's the sweetener that I use of choice. It's a natural leaf sweetener. I use it in liquid form to eliminate the additives that they use in the powdered form to keep it from caking. Flax seeds. You can use them in baking to duplicate eggs. If you're having a hard time maintaining your body fat, where some people, they have to eat so much when they eliminate oil to maintain their ideal body weight, like they might drop underweight by 5 pounds. I don't have a problem with that because I like to eat, but some people, they're not eaters, so sometimes they'll supplement with some flax seeds. Flax seeds and chia seeds are very low in fat, very low, so that's not going to affect your endothelium at all. So those are totally acceptable. I wouldn't recommend putting them into a smoothie for omega-3 benefits because you really don't need to balance out your omega-3s and 6s when you're eating a whole food plant-based diet without oil. Our omega-6 gets up here and high when we're adding oils. That is the primary source for omega-6s in our diet. So if we eliminate those high amounts of omega-6s by eliminating the oils in our diet, all of a sudden the 3s and 6s are in perfect balance. You don't need to supplement seeds to get that balance.
So stevia is there's also stevia stuff in it.
Right. I would recommend, she was asking what stevia I recommended. I recommend the liquid stevia that's available. It's organic at Trader Joe's. That's the best price on liquid stevia today. I check these prices all the time for my workshops to get everyone the best deal eating this way. Also, Fruitful Yield, which is a store in the suburbs, it's a little health food store. They carry Now brand, which is also organic stevia. I recommend that one. I think it's $1 more than Trader Joe's. You know what, you could use it up, but if you were doing my 30-day workshop, I would ask you to not use it because of the food additives in it. Yeah, she's asking about the liquid stevia that has a glucose added to it. No, we don't need that. All we want is the sweetening agent that comes from the leaf of the plant. I don't want any additives to it. Are you asking about coconut sugar? Nectar. That still has grams of sugar in it. So it's sugar in camouflage. Agave nectar, maple syrup, coconut nectar. There's all these new ones. Coconut sugar that are coming out on the market. They are marketing disasters, basically. They're getting you to believe that this is healthy when it isn't. If you look on the package for the grams of sugar, it's high. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. It's going to cause more sugar cravings. When we eat sugar, we want more sugar, and then we want some more sugar with that sugar, and it just spirals into a big sugar disaster. 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. 1 teaspoon. And you can find these recipes in Exact. There's actually a cooking video that I do a lot of cooking videos and nutritional cooking videos on protectivediet.com to get it exact. I know everyone's jotting it down, but it's all there for you anytime. Any other questions? She's asking how long this will keep in the refrigerator. I would recommend freezing it in small containers if you aren't going to use it all up. This doesn't last very long in my house, and it's just the 2 of us. We eat it on mashed potatoes the first day. The next day I cook up some brown rice noodles, and we eat it on that. It gets used up. It's also vegetable based, so this is going to stay in the refrigerator fine for 7 days. I'll eat this in 7 days, no problem. So, any more questions? get in touch with me.